What we're going to be looking at today is a heated exchange between President Trump and Zelensky in the White House. Let's just jump right in.
Problems. You should be thanking the president for trying to bring an end to this conflict.
Have you ever been to Ukraine? Did you say what problems we have?
I have been to...
There's a lot of body language already going on, so I'm going to point all of this out, then we're going to keep going. If you first look at President Trump and Vice President Vance, they're both leaning forward. This is what we do when we want to be persuasive. This is what we do when we want to connect with somebody. Doesn't always mean that you're connecting positively, but it means you're connecting. Now, if you look at Zelensky, he's leaning back, his arms are crossed. Obviously, this is a defensive posture. I think anybody can recognize that. He's also leaned back a little bit more. He is not leaning in the same as President Trump and Vice President Vance, which means that he's probably feeling defensive. And not surprisingly, we're going to see why as we keep going.
I've actually watched and seen the stories, and I know what happens is you bring them on a propaganda tour, Mr. President. Do you disagree?
Now, this was interesting. I want you to watch Zelensky's face during this exchange right here.
I've actually watched and seen the stories, and I know what happens.
So when Vice President Vance says, I've watched and seen the stories, you can see Zelensky raising his eyebrows, then shaking his head. We raise our eyebrows to bring attention to our face, and then he shakes his head. He wants you to see that he disapproves of what's being said.
Is you bring them on a propaganda tour, Mr. President. Do you disagree?
When Vice President Vance said propaganda tour, that got his attention. So if you'll notice how quickly his eyes moved, Vice President Vance, that's because there would have been a surge of adrenaline, that all of a sudden there was an immediate draw of his attention. So when he said that, you get a very visceral reaction from Zelensky. You can also see his eyebrows right here. Let's go back and see what he does with that.
Is you bring them on a propaganda tour, Mr. President. Do you disagree?
So when he said propaganda tour, you see the eyebrows come together. That's anger. That really made him angry.
Agree that you've had problems bringing people into your military? And do you think that it's respectful to come to the Oval Office of the United States of America and attack the administration that is trying to prevent?
Now you'll see right now President Trump has his hands in a steepling position. We typically do this when we are an expert at something or when we have a position of power. Obviously, this is a place where he is showing that he is in a position of power in this room right now. And the body language shows that too, outside of just the steepling. If you look, as I pointed out, Vice President Vance and President Trump are both leaning forward. Zelensky continues to hold his arms tightly. And so it must be that it's so visceral that he's feeling defensive right now that he's keeping his arms closed. Because I think most people would recognize that that's not a way that you want to appear in a situation like this. But the body behaves unconsciously. So he must be feeling so defensive right now that he can't help but keep his arms crossed.
The destruction of your country.
A lot of questions. Let's start from the beginning.
Sure.
First of all, during the war, everybody has problems. Even you, but you have nice